Welcome back, guys. This week we are talking about stress, as we promised you last week when we talked about preparedness. So today we are going to talk with Rob and kind of get a little bit of information on the stress that was brought on to Rob from everything that he went through. Before we do that, how you doing, Rob?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. So something that we're doing that's going to be really fun for us is we're going to give a word of the week. So, Rob, what is your word of the week?
My word is humbleness, and you'll see why in a minute.
Awesome. And then I'm going with empathy this week, and so love it. So let's just jump into this, Rob. Let's talk about stress. Take it away.
Yeah, I'd like to start off with an ego check. I'm a hairstylist, are all of you, and I would say that in my experience, we are not the best at admitting when we are wrong and taking full responsibility for it. And something that I try to do a lot, but it's not necessarily like in all of our nature to come out and let people know that you fucked up. Well, I fucked up. Um, our front desk situation during when they found out that I had COVID, everyone freaked out. They were telling stylists were telling the front desk to say certain things and call certain people. I was telling him to call people, and the owner was telling him to call people, and I was calling some of my clients, but not all of them. And it wasn't. It was a shit show. Well, three people during that time didn't get the phone call that they should have that were in the week that I was sick, which is like the worst thing that can happen. And this doesn't have to happen to you if you go back and watch episode one and you're prepared for when somebody gets sick. Um, so she freaked out, and for the 3 or 4 days it took for her to get her results, she was on the phone with me and the owner, just letting us have it, and she had every right to do that. It was really really challenging, and that kind of like sparked that was what was building up all the stress, and so I'll go into like what all the stress is. So first of all, I'd like to say I have lost that client. There's a friend of a very good client of mine
Yeah.
who they're all neighbors, so who knows how many other clients I lost because we weren't prepared. So watch episode one and take what we say very seriously.
100%.
Going into some more of the drama and like specifically where the stress is coming from, things you can't get away from are the fact that you became positive for COVID and now you're worried about your health.
Right.
If you're not positive for COVID, finding out that your coworker is positive and you've been working with them all week,
Yeah.
that's going to be stressful. Or if you are positive, telling your coworkers that or your boss that you're positive, it's like no one really wants to admit that they're positive. Like you do it because you know that it's right, and then the fallout is like it's not good. Like it's like a leper. Like no one wants to be around you. Or a scarlet letter where you're just like kind of outcasted. Um, the stress of closing the salon and being out of work and losing money, that is intense. Like if you might blame somebody because they were the one that was sick and you're out of work for a week while you clean the salon and get tested. If you are sick, then you have to. I hope you have Aflac or something that'll pay short-term disability, and I'll find out soon if they even pay disability for Aflac. So anyway, all that stuff is like intense and it's real. Also, the stress of telling clients about your positive test, and I'm not talking about clients that you need to call because they're at risk or because you need to cancel them for quarantine. I'm talking about like a month later. Telling people is like people are like they don't really want to be around somebody that potentially could be getting them sick, rightfully so. Stress of knowing what to do during quarantine. Like my wife and I live in a 580 square foot studio. It was like, great, I'm sick, and now my wife is gonna get sick. Pray hard on that nothing bad happens. Um,
Yeah.
that's a little like sum up of what I went through.
Man, I feel like the guy standing behind you, dude. I'm just like listening to you, and I'm like, wow. I'm like that guy right now. Wow, that's a lot of stress, my man. So like, give us some of the ways that you address or you noticed that you were having all these stress. What were some of the symptoms that you were having that you recognized?
The symptom was irritability and feeling a little overwhelmed, and then that turned into me lashing out at a coworker who didn't deserve to be lashed out. Maybe needed to be talked to firmly. about something, but it was just not necessary and super emotional. And that's when I realized, as soon as I got off the phone, I was like, oh my goodness. I looked at my wife and was like, was that harsh? She's like, yeah. What are you? I was so, yeah, that was it. And that led to me taking personal inventory of myself. I downloaded a book on management and communication styles and in building relationships called Radical Candor. I highly recommend it to everybody. And then I realized, as I was breaking apart all of my habits and the things that I was doing during my day that were not doing anything to lead to productivity or positivity in my life, I
Right.
discovered that I was overeating, consuming too frequently alcohol, and like just escaping by watching hours of TV and staying up late and like munching out on food. Like it was just like, ugh, how am I doing anything with
Right.
these habits?
So you're really just trying to shut yourself up maybe and just kind of reflecting, but at the same time, you were taking that on yourself as well by doing these bad habits, not realizing, but you were trying to figure out a way and a path. But that, I mean, that's the thing that I took away was just that that's amazing that you, I mean, that within itself is so much stress, and then you take it upon yourself, and then how do you relieve that stress? So like when you were going through this feeling and like overeating, all these symptoms that you have, what was the turning point? Where was the point where you realized that I need to do something positive, and then what did you do?
Um, so I think people have all kinds of symptoms of stress. I mean, what are your symptoms of stress?
So, like my stress, to be honest with you, when I get stressed, I close myself out. That's my biggest thing. I take a step back. I stop communicating with others. And overeating is definitely one of the things that I have a big problem with that I do. And then just really having to control my anger. I'm really a happy person, but when it comes to stress, certain times that really gets the best of me. And I think what I usually like to do is either take some time out, go on a really nice walk, or meditate or something like that. But those were one of the biggest things that were my um, stress indications that I know that I'm like, okay, I'm at a point where I need to take another step.
Yeah, so the way I dealt with it was I adopted a mantra of we're all human, or it's okay to be human, and
Mhm.
that's where the humble comes in. Like I realized like I had failed and I owned it. And so like we're all human. It's okay to be human. Just let other people be human too.
Right.
Like, and that's where the compassion. So it's really like that mantra kind of encompasses our two words um, and that was the turning point. And then developing, like you told me about this 75 day strong thing where these rules you got to follow, and it's basically building healthy habits. My wife and I modified it a little bit so that we can set ourselves up for success in ways that we know works best for us. And then also, and that includes healthy habits like a physical activity twice a day. Once has to be outside. That's one of the rules. That's been really helpful.
Right.
Eating healthier, getting sleep, focusing on my sleep, actually paying attention to how many hours I get every day.
Mhm.
That seems to help a
And
lot.
you notice the difference. I mean, I'm obviously, did you notice like we talk about instant gratification in hair, but did you literally notice that right away, or was it something that the gradual that you'd noticed?
Uh, I guess it was some of it was instant, but some of it took a little bit of time. I think we're kind of drifting into episode 2, which I guess is a good time to plug in. Like once I focused on myself, I then realized I have a responsibility in the shop.
Hmm.
And so I started following up with clients who had been in just to check in on them. I followed up with coworkers, and then I also kind of did a pivot where instead of being like a warden or an officer to make sure people are following all the rule protocol rules. I do that more in a constant nudging for the rules, but I also team that up with talking about our craft, talking about things that are fun, asking people about about their vacations and checking in with people, you know. And so that's going to be the next episode where we talk about follow up. And then we pivoted the business like on a dime, and we went in straight into a community initiative. You know, we're like, what's important to us? You know, what's important is that we all are happy with each other. We get along. We act as a true team. You know, none of this diva stuff at our salon. And and that means that we all have to be on the same page. And hairdressers that are not inspired and working on their craft are not going to want to be at work. They're not going to want to be friends. They're not going to want to participate in meetings. They're not going to want to be a team. So you know, that we'll dive more into that. But yeah, pivoting and following up with people is a big one. So I guess I'm going to go straight in. What are the 3 takeaways for today's episode?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, obviously, you know, what we're talking about is stress, is recognizing your stress. And when recognizing your stress and knowing what your triggers are, I think is really important to figure them out. And so some of the symptoms would probably be, you said a couple, but overeating, being angry, and using either drugs or alcohol, something to soothe your pain rather than, you know, fixing it. So I think that's one of the triggers that I think you definitely want to look out for. Being open to help. I think that's really huge. I think taking a step back and really either asking your family, friends, or maybe even professional help is something that you need. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think it's a great avenue to take if you need help. So I think that's really great. And then developing just and installing good habits for you to deal with. And some of those will be meditating and exercising, eating well. I think that's huge. I think the biggest is, you know, taking that, the food that you take in is really big on your projection on life and what you do. And then also sleeping. This is something that you and I always talk about, is that, you know, we're always on the go, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're a hairdresser, whatever it may be, you're always on the go. We really need to take back some time to yourself to sleep, to get rest. So I think those are really important to me.
Yeah, I think so. I think that sounds good. So that concludes our episode 2 of our series of testing positive in the workplace. Next episode, so the first episode was preparedness. Second episode is like the stress is real and be prepared for, and know what you're getting into. And then the episode 3 is going to be on follow up and how to pivot the salon and point it in a positive direction.
That's right.
So thank you everybody for listening.
Thanks for being with us today, and we really appreciate you guys. We hope to see you guys next week. In the comments, please leave us some of your ideas, whether it is something that you want us to talk about, whether you want to input something that we missed. We are going to put a disclaimer out there that we are not doctors, we are not professionals. This is just something that we want to share with you guys. So this also, we expect that from you to share back a little with us as well. And we love you guys. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
You have just experienced Hairdresser Strong.
Thank you so much for your time.
Please visit our website www.hairdresserstrong.com for shows,
resources,
and tools mentioned in this show and all the others.
Also, we want to hear from you. Do you have any experiences, topics, or questions you want us to answer or discuss?
Visit our audience correspondence page on our website to leave us your message.